How to structure a song. Something that I think a lot of musicians and artists have trouble doing, especially ones that are just getting started in their music making journey. But even seasoned veterans sometimes have trouble crafting a song from start to finish, trying to tell a story between those 2 points. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how I structure a song and how you can use these tips and tricks and methods to help you structure yours. Let's go. What is up, everybody? I am Legend, and in today's episode of Track Out Tuesday, we are going to be breaking down a track in terms of song structure. And we're going to talk about how to structure a song, how to structure a beat, musicians who are producers and just making the beats, but also people who write songs as well and arrange things like that. There are so many important aspects to creating a full song, from the equipment that you use to where the inspiration comes from, the knowledge that you have in making the music, making the music itself, to recording the music, writing the lyrics. All these things play a huge factor in your song creation process or your beat creation process. But I think one of the most important things, and things that are not so focused on, especially with the average beginner, is storytelling. And not only in the sense of like lyrical content, but the story of a song and how it plays out over the course of those 2 to 4 or 5 minutes. The way that I see a song structure is not just as verses and choruses, and you leave it at that, but each one of these different sections of a song serves a specific purpose, and it serves the purpose in helping to tell the story of whatever your song is about, whether it's something serious or something funny or something that's just upbeat and happy and something that's played in the clubs. It doesn't matter. You're still telling a story with how your song is placed out, along with the music and the lyrics. So in today's video, I'm going to go into one of my tracks that I just released called Cheat Codes. It was the first single off my Ouroboros album, and show how I went about structuring that song and how I used these methods to basically help tell the story of what that song is about. Without further ado, let's dive into the project file and see what we got. So for those of you who don't already know, I actually released a song called Cheat Codes. It was the first single off my album Ouroboros, and it is a very story-centric song. This is really driven by a true story that happened. In creating this song, I needed not only the lyrics to be telling the story of what happened, but I needed the music to reflect also the things that were happening at that point in time, and how the song is changing to like fit these different things that the song is mentioning. But also I needed the song structure itself to reflect the storytelling and to allow for the listener to kind of go on a ride, go on a journey. I think personally that song structure is a way to highlight certain parts of whatever story you're telling, and to have these highs and these lows, and to have sections where you're trying to drive home a point, in other sections where you're just trying to get into the details, so we all know like different song structures. We have verses, choruses, bridges, vamps. And if you don't know what all these things are, I kind of do break that down in an earlier video of mine, but I'll talk about it in this video. When starting a song, obviously you want to have a good way to intro the song, and whether that's like, just if it's a song that's super brazen, you basically want to hit the listener in the face, dead on, then you would just like come right in with the beat and just hammer it, something like that. I mean, I just skipped to the chorus here, but it just depends on what vibe you're going for. But then there's also songs that are like sweeter and softer, kind of like Ariana Grande's God Is a Woman. So hear how it just starts. Hear how it just starts with no drums, no extra instruments or anything like that. It was like just a little riser, kind of vocal riser that came in, and then go straight to just a bare bones guitar. Is telling the story. It's kind of like a sweet approach, a softer approach, because the song is called God Is a Woman, and I think it's reflecting that whole attitude, that sultry attitude of what the song is supposed to represent. At the end of the song, you go from this nothing to like the growth is definitely there, the storytelling is there, and the journey that you bring the listener on is there. So in my case, I typically do like to have intros, just something that establishes what the vibe of the song is. So in structuring your song, I would recommend if you're not just trying to hit somebody in the face and just like be super like out there, like with a rap song or like something that's supposed to be like hard hitting, breakup song or a dance track or something like that, it's really nice to use your intros to establish what the song is going to feel like. And it's kind of like a YouTube video. Within the first 5-15 seconds, you want to draw the listener in and keep them engaged. And I feel like I did that with Cheat Codes. It's basically the arrangement from the chorus without the drums, so it still feels like it's a bit of an intro that needs to build upon. But I gave them a little teaser in the beginning, and it sounds like this. No drums, but all the instruments are playing. And then immediately goes into the first verse. Now you see immediately that I added in my little snare, took away all of the grand things that are going on. I just basically have the bass, a hi-hat, open and closed, and that little 808 snare. Bringing the drums in right there. So here's a little tidbit. One thing that I like to do is I like to split my verses into two different parts. The first part of the verse, and this can go either way, but in this case, the first part of the verse is very bare bones. It's got no drums. It's just a hi-hat, open and closed, and a 808 snare and a bass. There's nothing else. And then the second bar comes in, and that's when the kick comes in. So it's kind of emphasizing like that growth, and we're getting into the meat of the bones, like this right here. It's like, okay, now we're in it right now. So I would split my verses into two. Have the first part be like kind of like a bare bones, and then you add, or you can do the vice versa. You can have it like really start out in the first half, and then take away from it in the second half of the verse. It kind of depends on what the song's about and how you're presenting it, if you want to have different aspects affect the storytelling like that. And then you can just have everything playing all at once. I mean, you already have the intro that kind of established the whole without the drums thing, but you can just have the verse do the same thing, like just basically repeat it with the kick both times. I could have went straight into this groove right here. But I'm a person that likes moving parts in my beats, I think, and in my songs. I think moving parts are very imperative to an interesting song. That's how I generally do my verses. Then I always like to add a pre-chorus, or how some people call, or how I call, a lean. Something that is leaning into what's coming next. It is the pre-chorus that goes into the chorus. It is not the chorus yet, but it's like the lead up, an audio cue that you're about to get into the most catchy part of the song. You're building up to that climax. You don't just want to go verse and then straight into the chorus. I mean, sometimes you can do that, and a lot of times actually you can do that. But me personally, I love the function of a lean. I love the buildup of a lean. How it's not necessarily a verse, but it adds another element to your song structure between the verse and the chorus that allows you to put in like different types of arrangements, lyrics, musical content. You can strip down, you can add to, just or completely do a different like chord progression, whatever it is. I love leans. And so in this case, I brought the drum in the second half of the first verse, and then immediately I took it away again because my vocals were going to change when the lean came. Right here. I went back to those synths, because if you heard my song, the synths are reflecting what my vocals are doing. And this is supposed to communicate like a dreamy feel. Like I felt like I was in a dream. I felt like what I was seeing and what I was experiencing wasn't real. And so I wanted to implement that feel somehow into the song with the music and the vocals. And that's exactly what I did. We go into the legato. I brought it up that night, case tonight. She said that it wasn't true. So as my vocals are stretching out longer and holding out the notes longer, the synth is also following that. The lean is it's stretching between the verse and the chorus. It's emphasizing what I said in the first verse, basically lyrical content wise, but it's still separating itself as a separate part of the song and allowing the growth to come from this whole aspect of me talking about, these accusations to my ex that she was cheating, but it wasn't true. Because the first verse is talking about how I saw the signs that I've seen in the things that I was being told by people's friends and things like that, the accusations. But then I get into the aspect of me confronting that, which comes into that singing is more stretched out, which then is going to obviously go into the section of the chorus, which is you hit me with the cheat codes. So That's the in your face part where the beat comes immediately back in. So we got this legato feel. Very legato, no drums. And then I was, man, that's when you hit me with the cheat code. And that's the chorus right there, all day. Very simple. So you see what I did here with the music first and foremost. This is the lean, and this is where I strip down everything so I can focus on the story of me confronting the accusations of, I'm in a dream right now, this can't be real, it feels fake, you hit me with a cheat code, boom. This is my reality right here. So you hear how I'm using different sections of the song and the way that the beat sounds to reflect my feelings, to reflect my emotions in that moment. I think this is a very important thing to do when you're trying to come up with your song structure. You want to examine how you feel when you're writing or when you're arranging. Let that be a story told within the music, within the lyrics, within the vocal arrangements, and within the song structure. If you feel like you need to break down a story and get into the nitty-gritty details, and you got to do that for more than 4 counts of 8, then do it. But yeah, so we go from this legato thing to the chorus where I'm very brazen, I'm very in your face, and I'm talking about you hit me with the cheat codes, and I wanted that kick immediately when it comes back in to hit, like I'm saying in the chorus, you hit me with the cheat codes. And so but this is the first verse. Play me better than anybody that I know. In the first chorus. Now after this, after the first verse and chorus and lean, in the second verse, I typically like to change up the arrangement of the music. Immediately what the average listener is going to be expecting is to hear basically the same music that was on the first verse, which you can totally do, is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. People do it all the time. But I love to change it up. At least you don't have to do the music all totally different. You could just change the drums, or you could keep the drums the same, just change the music, or you can change everything, or you can keep it all the same. But I think it's effective for the progression of the story and the progression of the journey to change up something in the second verse. So you're going from verse to pre-chorus to chorus. Then the second verse, you're adding more details on top of that. So in this case, I'm getting into the super, like, this is where the relationship started to fall apart. And so I wanted to really have that reflected in the music and the vocals as well. So again, I wanted to break it down. So what I did was I broke it down and I added like these African drums that are in Arcade actually. Very bare bones, but still it's a progression from the first verse, which was like this. Like this is very straightforward. This is very doom, 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 doom. But then the second verse, I bring in those drums with a lot more going on, like the doom, doom, because this is like the more intricate part of the story. This is the more complicated part of the story. So I want to complicate the music, or the second part of the second verse. It changes again. So instead of just having those African drums, I layered on top of that regular drums, like the hip hop drums that I had going on in the first verse, so that it does give it that growth again, that factor that's going to keep the listener engaged. Halftime. And that's something that I also like to do, is I like to half-time my drums or double time my drums to add a new change. But then here is the cool part, and one of my favorite parts about this song. On the second half of the second verse, I have these strings coming in that basically are reflecting, once again, a growth into the pre-chorus, because this pre-chorus, once again, is that legato feel that we had in the first one, but it's going to have, I can't think of any other phrase, but nitty-gritty part of the story, like the shock value. This is where the shock value really comes in. This is where like the stuff that was happening to me is pretty messed up. So I wanted the music to be dramatic, because it was something dramatic that happened to me, and I wanted to reflect that emotion and that event by the music basically building the suspense. So I added these strings at the end of the second verse to lean into the lean, aka the pre-chorus, which then explains and dives deeper into that whole cheating factor. I love this part. Beat drops out. and you take it all away again. This is where I'm saying the details. You told me, baby, don't worry, he's just a friend, but that alcohol told a different story. Now I'm going to tell the story. That's why it leads into that total different story. Let's listen to it.
You told me, baby, don't worry, he's just a friend.
But that alcohol, this is the twist, told a different story. Suspense, 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 explain.
From those nights when you lied with David's surface, now I see.
It's just the storytelling. You want the structure to reflect the lyrical content, to reflect the vocal content. Everything has to complement each other. The beat has to complement what the words are saying. The words have to complement what the beat is saying. The structure has to complement both of that, because if you have all these good ideas and you lay down these vocals and all this stuff, but the structure of the song is like you do a verse and a lean and then a chorus, it takes too long to get to the main message of the song. Sometimes that is effective if the chorus is like super grand and it's the climax of the song. But I think it's, in a lot of cases, it's better to have the hills and valleys of where you're doing the verse, you're explaining, it's going up, the pre-chorus it's leading up to that peak of that hill, which is the chorus, and then that's the main message of the song, and then it goes back down and you just get back into the valleys and you explain what's happening in the song. So it's just there's so many things that goes into this. And then you have the second chorus. So I like to, just like how I did in the second verse where I change up the music, I change up the music in the second chorus. The instrumentation is all doing the same thing. The synths are the same, the strings are the same, all of that is the same. But how I love my drums go halftime. It has that feel where like it feels like time is slowing down. Everything in my life was moving in slow motion at this time, and I wanted the music to communicate that. Slow. Halftime. But the good thing about me slowing it down here, and again, this is not something that you have to do in your song, but this is just for this particular song. And as an example, this left me great room for a bridge. Then you go into something that's completely different, that revisits a previous part of the song or discusses a new part of the story. However you want to approach it, a completely new arrangement. Usually the music is different. The vibes are different. Things are changed. But in this case, it's a rap. Let's see.
Better than anybody that I know.
Climax, take it all away.
Club nights on my Fedrin.
And for the very first time, you hear a guitar come in. You hear just because at this time I'm just thinking about, I'm visualizing a guy in Memphis or something, and he's just trying to pour out all his heart and soul on the street. Just him and a guitar, just him expressing himself. Kind of like "Drink You Away" by Justin Timberlake. Since this rap was probably the most raw part of the song, I needed the music to reflect that. So we took it raw. I'm talking like somebody else made this. I just stripped it down to just a guitar, and then I built that bridge. I built that rap into the ending of the song, kind of like sort of a vamp chorus, if you will.
Ex-demon waking up and
break it down now.
Club nights on my Fedrin. Ex-demon waking up in Philippe's house. I got a question, yeah. How you get on that side of town? You told a lie. I said,
and then I brought in some extra drums.
Cause he was sneaking peeks all up on that Instagram.
Brought in some extra drums, another jazz guitar to, again, keep it interesting and build on what's already happening.
You couldn't do it sober, so
like
you
every count, every count.
Probably smoked a gram, probably drank some things.
I
now
had
I
something
guess I know why you never wore
right
that
here.
ring. I spent $20,000 on some
the chorus comes in. So that's when you hear this choir.
round trip flights. I learned to pray when you cry so you can sleep at night. But like every other day, it seemed like we just fight, arguing about a guy after I f***ed you right. And I even try to come out and surprise you good. About a month.
Changed again at the end of this bridge. I added that African drum to give it more change, just to keep the listener engaged, and that it's not doing that same old, straight kick. It changes to where it stays interesting.
Before you're supposed to come to Hollywood, but cold feet turned to cold heart, not so good. But I guess with all the signs, I should have known you had the Chico.
So this part is also one of my favorite parts of the song, because coming out from this big buildup that we just had in the bridge, in the rap, where do you want to end? You want to end with the chorus because it's the most familiar part of the song. So you want to end on the familiar part of the song. The chorus should be the ending part. Not should be, but generally it is. And so what I did was I had my music playing, and then I added like a record scratch or record, the turntable where it breaks down, everything cuts out, cheat code, boom. And that's when we get into kind of like the last climax of the song, the last peak of the song. I think it's right here. Strings come in, everything's building up. That's when she hit me with the cheat code. Now that arpeggiated synth was never there at any other point in the song. It's only heard at the end. So by this time, people are still getting new parts to listen to. And you can do this vocally as well. You can do this with the music. You can do this with lyrics if you want to add something else, like some backgrounds or ad-libs or something. It just adds another layer of growth and progression in the song. So essentially what I'm trying to communicate is, in your songs, when you're going to structure your songs, you want to think about what purpose your intro is serving, what purpose your verse is serving, what purpose your lean / pre-chorus serves, your chorus. Basically all those things are going to be the same in the second half of the song, but change it up a little bit. Each of these different things, just think about when you're writing, they hold a particular value. They hold a particular place. If you guys like today's video, please leave a like down below. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment as well. I'm replying to all my comments as I always do. If you are not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications, set them to all so you'll be notified every time I upload a brand new video. And with that being said, I guess I'll see you on Thursday. As always, stay legendary, guys. Peace.